correct.
right?
Yep. And so it's a catch-22, because on the one hand, when it comes to the surface and is made known, then people accuse the pastor of being too prideful to have admitted that they were in this process. On the other hand, there's a lack of trust. There isn't a pastor or even a Christian out there who hasn't been betrayed by having shared confidential information or having that used in some sort of a power struggle against them. And there is this belief at times that if you just pray more, this should be solved. If you were a godlier person, this would be solved. Or this is purely and only demonic, which means there's some unconfessed sin in your life, something's going on. And while all of those things may have in fact contributed somewhere along the line, that does not necessarily mean that that is the core issue. And so, you know, Christians take medication for all sorts of things that they need physiologically, but when it comes to the physiology of the brain, that does affect emotion, spiritual well-being, and so forth. For some reason, there is this stigma there that it is ungodly to seek that type of help. Some may only need some help for a period of time to help them, not in place of Christ, but to simply give enough balance. I mean, among men, depression in the general population is around 10 or 11%. That and suicide is going up every year. Among clergy, it's close to 40%.
Oh.
And so when you start reading these things, there is no safe community of Christ, by and large, for those in ministry.
Now, this raises two really important questions, and I'll ask them both, and hopefully we can cover both. One is, why clergy? And number two, why is the church not a place of healing for clergy who are suffering? But why clergy, first of all?
I think, first of all, it's because we have designed a job description and titles and concepts around clergy in such categories that are outside of a person's calling. We expect them to know everything, to know how to do everything, which is interesting because nowhere in the Bible does it say, stir up the gift I didn't give you.
Yeah.
You know, and yet, okay, I'll get called by a group that wants me to consult with their church. Our pastor's a lousy administrator, so we want to find a pastor who's a better administrator, or we want to find one who's a better visionary, or whatever. And so we create these things. We create them around the corporate model, but it's an old corporate model, not even the new one. It's an old one which destroyed companies and destroyed cultures financially and so forth. But we still have that model within the confines of the church. Beyond that, church has become something that we do rather than what we are. And that's the emphasis on the incarnational life that I've put in here. That church happens more about even what you and I are doing at this table. And life on life than it happens in a catalytic event of a worship experience. And so by changing church from life to the event, and then beyond that, we've taken that somehow programs are to transform our lives. And I don't have any problems with creating programs. What I have a problem with is that if the horse dies, dismount. It's time to get off it. You know, I talk to churches about men's ministry. Less than 10% of churches in the States, 400,000, have anything that can be called men's ministry. They're doing what they've done for years, and it's not working. You know, so the same thing with clergy, just providing a place for them to go after life explodes is not sufficient. But understand the model that we have created for our pastors, our clergy, that we hold them to, is what we also are placing on ourselves. And so the congregation becomes more reclusive when it comes to honesty and living in transparent community.
And why is the church not the place to heal?
Yeah.
Why is the church, and we're talking about the institutional church generally.
Yes.
There's always exceptions.
Yeah.
But both you and I are clergymen, and we spent a lot of years in the ministry. Why isn't the church what it should be in that sense?
Well,
are we to blame? Is it leadership? Is it a cumulative thing? You know, is it maybe a lack of understanding what incarnational living is?
I think there's a lack of understanding. There are some of the things, you and I have been around long enough to remember all of the trends that have happened just in our ministry time.
Yeah.
This is going to fix it. This is going to fix it. So, you know, we had the management trend, the administrative trend, the leadership trend, and then all of these other things. The church growth movement, which was both a blessing and a curse.
Right.
Blessing challenged us. Why are we doing nothing to reach the lost? Curse in the sense that it put an emphasis on program size, quantity, not necessarily a qualitative approach to what it means to be a Christian. There is a change of movement now in the sense of the emphasis is more on church health than it is on church growth. Right. It hasn't quite caught on. I think that part of what churches are doing with cutting back on programs and providing more ways in which Christians can live life on life, but they have to recognize that curriculum isn't going to change that. Equipping those who are leading, whether they're groups or classes, have to be equipped with the ability to build trust, because there's been so much distrust, so much hurt within the church. And you have people coming to Christ who look around and they're saying, I'm never going to trust anybody again. And so without, I can tell you to love your neighbor, but to trust that person and to enter into the process of being willing to build trust so that I can be honest and know that they've got my back. That's one of the toughest issues, but that's where ministry gets dirty. It's not nice and clean and antiseptic and starts at this hour, ends at this hour. The lights come on, the screens come on, everything happens. Living life with people gets messy. And yet that's where trust is built. That's where life is built, and that's where when you seriously mess up and I don't desert you and I help you get up and move forward, that's what's needed.
And really, when you think about it, there's no institutional structure that will really promote or catalyze what you're talking about. It really rests with you and with me as individuals to take the initiative and reach out to somebody. I mean, one-on-one.
Yeah, just not formal. Just
grab
a cup of coffee. Let's hang out.
Yeah, I mean, the Son of God Himself.
Right.
3 years of ministry. You know, if we were to look at Him and His ministry through the lens of, say, the last 30, 40 years of corporate, institutional church life, we would say it was a failure. I mean, there was no church growth there. I mean, he had some big meetings, but they were unsustainable, right? That's the big condemnation these days, unsustainable.
Of course, he told them, if you're not willing to die, leave.
Yeah, and people would come to him and say, get out of here, you're here for the wrong reasons.
Right.
And then he focuses on 12 guys, and you would think after 3 years of relational bonding, they'd be with him through thick or thin. Right. He comes to this big crisis leading up to his crucifixion, they all desert him and flee. One guy